Please stand for the invocation. Father Chris Hoffman of Our Lady of Hope Catholic Church, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance. Invocation. Father Chris.
Good evening. Let us pray. God above, you have given us reason and understanding to govern. We know that all true authority comes from you, and each of us is answerable to your sovereignty. On this Religious Freedom Day, we recognize the insight Thomas Jefferson had in establishing the principle that all people should have the freedom to worship as they understand you. This is enshrined in our First Amendment, that our nation shall not hinder the free exercise of religion, nor make any law respecting an establishment of a particular religion. We thank you for allowing us to live in a nation that respects the dignity of worship. We know, too, that with freedom comes responsibility. True freedom is not for evil, but to do good. We ask for your divine assistance to do good this evening. Help us in our deliberations to understand your will and strive for fairness and justice for all your people. May everything we do be done with civility and great respect. We know that many citizens gather together to do the work of charity and justice. We thank you for inspiring people to raise money and dedicate their time to helping others through charity walks and runs. You inspire these good works and help us to accomplish your desire that we should love each other as we love ourselves. We also ask you, Lord, to be with our men and women in uniform. Keep safe our police officers, medical personnel, and firefighters. Be with our men and women in the military, especially those deployed in dangerous places. Guard and guide them as they accomplish their mission. Let peace reign in this world so that they may return home to us safely. We ask all of these things of you, who live and reign forever and ever. Amen. Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, Father.
You're welcome.
Sir. The clerk call the roll.
Councilman Ford.
Here.
Councilman Tremont.
Here.
Councilman Vasquez.
Here.
Vice Mayor Stiltner.
Here.
Mayor Burnett.
Here. Public comments on consent agenda items only. I know that Derek LaMontagne wanted to speak to one of those.
There he is.
And you're going to speak to 7C right now.
Hello, Mayor, Council. My name is Derek LaMontagne, 993 Geiger Drive. Yeah, I just would like to see if we can perhaps pull item 7C. I had some questions about it. It regards clearing of land in our reserved area out west. I'm really just trying to get more information on it. And it seems like I'm waiting on some staff people to report on that, and I'd like to, I guess, see if we can pull it and maybe not approve it at this time. Again, from what I can tell, it's to clear 50 acres of land that's sort of periphery to some of the roads out west, just in order to sort of, I guess, prevent possible future falling onto some power lines. I'm wondering if there's alternatives to that, you know, perhaps moving the lines lower, especially if, you know, because that's conservation land and it's just 50 acres. It didn't ever come before environmental board, or really this seems like it should be talked about if that's really the best decision. So that was the first comment. That's item 7C in the consent agenda. And the other two items I'd like to
You can
comment.
speak to those when they come up.
I can do that. Okay. Oh, there's one that's not on there then, if that's okay.
What's the other one?
The other one is I had a concern, or I want to see if maybe I could get some guidance on a particular project I'd like to do, which sort of covers all the city in terms of retention ponds, and ones that we want to sort of re-beautify with planting, getting donations, especially, you know, with Arbor Day coming up.
I'll call you up during regular citizen participation. You can speak to that one then. Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Derek. Anybody else like to speak to anything on the consent agenda? Council? May I have a motion on the agenda approval for the consent?
So moved. Second.
We have a motion and a second for approval in the entire consent agenda?
Is that including the one on the clearing of trees?
Yes, it is.
It does include that.
I'd like to have that open for question.
Okay. So I need a, if we're going to discuss that, I need the motion modified to approve everything else other than 7C.
Did we get a second on that motion?
We
That
did.
was
Okay,
me.
thank
Yes,
you.
ma'am.
Yeah, but I move that we approve everything but 7C.
I have a motion on the floor prior to that one. Would you wish to remove the motion?
Why don't you treat it as an amendment and see if the amendment, or as you wish.
Or not, because that makes it harder?
I'd like to have a vote called as the motion has been made.
Okay, then I need you to amend the motion
Okay.
to pull 7C.
I amend the motion to pull 7C.
Okay, may I have a second on that? Dies for lack of a second. Call the main motion.
Councilman Ford.
No.
Councilman Tremont.
Yes.
Councilman Bastian.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Still.
Whoa.
Sorry about that.
That's okay.
The trees are complaining.
Vice Mayor Stiltner.
Yes.
Mayor Burnett.
Yes, 4-1. So I couldn't get that vote in 3 minutes, is that what you're trying to tell me?
Mr. Mayor, question. Traditionally, any councilman has had the right to pull,
Mhm.
and we're changing that tradition?
No, I have no problem with that, but the motion was already made.
Oh, okay, I thought
So
because...
with a motion already on the floor, I had to act on that motion. That's why I asked you to amend the motion.
Okay.
Now, I will comment on that item. I know that we were, I had talked to Jake about that one a little bit. I know that we were working on clearing the timber farm in respect to the danger with that and the power lines. That's what this was about, right?
Yes, it's
Yeah.
just to
Just to
clarify,
clarify?
it's 50 trees, not, it's 50 feet back off the power lines, and this is timber harvesting. This isn't cutting down ancient trees, just to clarify. And it's what, we're harvesting the rest of the timber out there
And this
in
is the-
accordance with our forester's recommendation.
Okay.
Is this
Very
clear
good.
cutting or just harvesting mature
We are
trees?
Harvesting.
harvesting trees and cutting the area to ensure our power lines don't get hit by fully grown trees.
Because we have had an issue.
We have.
Yeah.
We lost power out at the well field during the hurricane, and we were on backup generator power for a couple days till we could get the power lines fixed.
Mayor, under your rights, you may thin the trees out in the well field areas, and the staff will be monitoring to be sure they're in full compliance with those limitations on how they thin those trees.
And I know that we're doing that under the guidance of our forester as well. Is that correct, Jake?
Correct.
Any more information, questions about what we've already passed? Thanks, Bob. Citizen participation, non-agenda. Derek, this is your chance. Retention ponds you want to talk about.
Okay, yes, great, thank you so much. Again, my name is Derek Lamontagne, just speaking as a citizen today, and I would like to address just a possible endeavor that I really want help with the city moving forward with, and that's to, again, sort of re-beautify some of the old retention ponds. In the past year, just as a little background, and actually more than a year, I've been meeting with some staff and sending emails back and forth and actually getting approval to do a test run. We did this last spring successfully in a retention pond with some donated trees and just donated labor. It didn't cost the city anything. Had talked to them about where to place them so they're not mowed over. And basically with some of the transition that happened at the fall and end of last year, those trees just one day were all cut down, and it was very sad because they were at least many of them 4 feet tall or more, and again they were donated, they were maintained by the citizens, they were happy, they were, some were planted in honor of people, and just it was really heartbreaking to know that they're mowed basically because there were people on the city who just found it easier to just mow them over, and just have it be cleared and just grass. So basically, the reasoning behind planting trees and also shrubs and so forth around retention ponds is sort of to help absorb some of the nutrients and beautify the area, and also you have to mow less actually if you plant them properly around the edges and so forth, if you have the proper pond plants and so forth. And I've actually reached out to some university professors. They're willing to work with us. I've gotten some documents about what kind of trees and plants are good for that. And I've also sent a couple, I had an email with one of our people saying we're looking for events for like Arbor Day and so forth. So I'm hoping that maybe that's coming up in the spring, and I can have maybe some guidance. I can bring this, or it can go before environmental board, or really just other citizen volunteers can work with the city on doing this. But again, I just would like to sort of see if the council can maybe say that they support such an effort to sort of revitalize ones that are just pretty much barren. I know a lot of new projects come in and they sometimes plant so they look nice, at least for the time being, but some old ones are kind of forgotten, and I'd like to see those put in. I don't know, I think we can get them fairly cheap, especially if they are for bulk purchase, and I'm happy to work with that. And yeah, so that's basically my concern, and I'll speak on a couple other things when they come up, including some efforts I made this year regarding, or just yesterday, regarding the Martin Luther King Day, and just sort of getting some citizen input on some other environmental issues. But that's, I guess, I'm out of time, so thank you for listening, and I'm available if you have any questions or comments.
See you again in a bit.
Thanks, Dirk.
During council comments, I wouldn't mind having a conversation about retention ponds. Which brings up Mr. Tom Jordan. Hello, stranger.
Good evening. Hi, Tom Jordan, 5400 South Williamson Boulevard, Port Orange. My topic isn't as exciting as retention ponds, so excuse me. No, there's been a lot of chatter about sales taxes and a possible sales tax vote coming up on the ballot. And I thought at this time it's kind of appropriate to at least express an opinion, whether you're for or against it. One of the things I was wanting to encourage this council and to encourage the county was that when the proposal comes forward, if you want to get it approved, a lot of citizens in the past have felt that there is a shell game, or almost a shell game, where they think they're getting one thing, but indeed they get another thing. And the proposals and the actual projects that get implemented seem very different. And so, in my opinion, it would behoove the council and the county to be very specific in what projects will be achieved or will be accomplished, will be funded, so that, excuse me, when the voters get to the ballot and they think they're voting on one thing, that is what they actually get, whatever that list might be and however that list gets formulated. I know it's tough to sit here in day one looking out months to figure out what's actually going to be proposed and what's actually going to be funded. But it seems that there are already projects that are on a priority list. Port Orange has the opportunity to propose transportation road projects through the TPO. So it would seem that those projects that are on the TPO priority list from Port Orange would be the ones that we would want to fund as part of that. And I know there's the opportunity to participate with the county or with the state, or to put monies that we bring into the city and to partner with the other entities, which makes sense. It certainly makes sense if it can help us alleviate Williamson or Dunlawton or whatever it might be. But it would make sense that the city and the county, the proposal that they put forward on the ballot says, here's what you're going to get. Thanks.
Appreciate it. Thank you. I'm going to give you guys a quick update on last week's meeting of the intergovernmental
Elected
roundtable. Boy, I couldn't remember the name of it for a second. Last week, which was a major topic of discussion. So when we get to council comments, I'll update you guys on what I know. Which brings us to council comments. Drew.
See how that works?
I'm good tonight.
We know you're good, but you don't have any comments either?
No,
okay.
nothing tonight.
Scott?
I'll pass and chime in on that discussion topic there.
Okay. Chase?
A brief update. Had a good visit to Tallahassee, Alan Rose and I, and we did some lobbying for our flood mitigation project. We did some lobbying for our smoking bill, which actually received update from Sean today that it passed the Senate committee today.
Nice.
So to allow us to regulate smoking in public parks, and we got some good feedback from Emergency Management Agency to get our first batch of our reimbursement, approximately $2.6 million, coming to us relatively quick. They say 3 to 4 weeks. Realistically, we know what that means, 3 to 4 months. But
at least that's still before the next hurricane season.
But you hear it from the horse's mouth, and you see the amount of bureaucracy that goes through to get this done through the federal and the state, providing the outrageous amounts of information required for both parties, and then they correlate with each other, and they come back to us separately and look for more documents. So it's a maze of junk to try to get back what we need to. But nevertheless, good visit, and we'll be looking forward to doing some more of that tomorrow.
Just to clarify, the smoking bill is something that we're looking at. Right now, the state does not allow cities to make any ordinances that allow or don't allow smoking in parks, playgrounds, and the like. And we have no say-so. Somebody wants to smoke away on a playground around small children, they can, and we can't stop them. Now, we can certainly encourage people to be considerate of others, and I think for the most part, people are. But that's what we're looking to do with this bill, at least to be able to have a say-so at the city level, because the state is in a habit right now of taking away our ability to decide what we want to do with our own communities. So I appreciate you going up there and pushing that one.
Well, there have been other bills filed like this in the past, but the mistake that they made in the past is to look to allow cities to regulate smoking citywide. Mm-hmm. This bill is geared toward just the parks, the city-owned parks, which makes sense because schools are exempt from that. Schools are allowed to prohibit it and regulate it. So it just makes sense naturally that the kids who are playing at the schools, same ones at the parks, you can also have the ability to protect as well.
Okay. And we are accountable directly for what we do right here in our own community, what we do or don't do, and I think that's the way it should be. And I appreciate your advocacy, and I couldn't help but notice that the language of the bill was very similar to what our deputy city attorney crafted. So,
yes.
Kudos to
him or something close.
Good deal.
Standing on the shoulders of giants.
What else you got?
That's all I got, man. Thank you.
Bob?
Yeah, I just wanted to talk a little about trees. I got several people called me worried about the oak trees around city center. I assured them that while there were ribbons around some of them, that we were looking at it very sincerely. I do think that one of the things that has made Port Orange unique is its protection of trees. And trees, like everything else in life, are a double-edged sword. As my parents used to tell me, everything and nothing in life is for free. So the trees are wonderful and they do wonderful things for our community, but there are costs associated with them. And like in everything else, what we need in this city is a policy on trees that directs us, Public Works particularly, or Parks and Rec, depending on who's responsible, to do periodic audits of our trees and to ensure that we're maintaining them in a proper status. The destruction of sidewalks, the destruction of roads are a product to some extent of improper planting, but that being said, also there are ways to control that through root pruning and a whole series of other things. So what I would like to do is urge the city manager, and I know he's already into this, through the city forester, to begin a program of taking a look at oak trees in particular, the ones around city center to start with, but other oak trees in the city, to maintain that, to make sure they're properly maintained. And that includes root pruning. It may also mean some selective pruning of the branches and the trees to maintain the safety of those trees. So we got to the point now where the many young trees we planted, I was here when they planted them, they look quite a bit different, and I think they're going to take a lot of action. Yeah. I like to think I don't, but there's a young man trapped in this old body. But anyway, we need to do a little more to take care of the trees. And Derek LaMontagne and I talked a couple of days ago, and I think he's onto something good, and that is systematic replanting, particularly around in public spaces, and I'm talking about now retention basins and other area of trees. And I'd like us to give a lot of thought to where the trees are placed so they don't interfere with the mowing, so that they help the city look nicer. And the other thing that's clear about trees is we've been a lot of discussion and concern about climate change, and one of the things we can do to deal with it on the local level right here is trees. Trees are clearly one of the elements that make a huge difference in our climate. They change temperatures, they change rate of precipitation, they have tremendous effects upon the environment, and I think we as Tree City USA really need to begin to start looking at our trees in a systematic and concerned fashion. So I'm going to urge the city manager, and I think at some point we may need a plan together for how we're going to systematically deal with the trees. It's going to be a mighty task because we have so many, but it's certainly one worth doing. So that's my feelings tonight.
Okay. Well, and along the lines of retention ponds, I don't think it is inappropriate for us to ask the Environmental Advisory Board to take a look at that and some recommendations, because one thing planting around beyond beautification for retention ponds, and retention ponds are essential to control flooding, is that you have erosion, and erosion with rain and the like takes away the effectiveness of retention ponds, and planting helps maintain the banks of those retention ponds as well. So if council is fine with it, you guys okay with tasking the Environmental Advisory Board at looking at that and coming up with some recommendations for us?
Yep.
You guys amenable?
So, Mayor, can I?
Yes.
What staff is finding that when you task boards to do stuff, it basically comes back to staff. So, in some cases, so can I get a clear expectation of what you would like from the board so we can give them the tools they need to go out and do that? You're looking at the not necessarily an ordinance change, but a maintenance.
Some policy guidelines, some volunteerism.
On the systematic maintenance of trees in public spaces.
Basically, I'm looking for some opportunities.
Sure.
What opportunities do we have?
So opportunities to maintain what we have, and to make better what we don't have with new trees, planting, and stuff of that nature. So,
and this is not a small,
no, I know that.
Quick process. I know that.
So Dr. Tripp and Harbor Oaks obviously has partnered for instance with the city. We're going through the permit process right now to plant those mangroves on the living shore, on the riparian buffer. That is one great project right there that worked without anybody asking her to do anything. I think that's kind of what you're looking at. So I'll make sure that Katie shares that with the Environmental Advisory Board to kind of give them an idea of what we're looking for.
We're looking for some opportunities.
We'll help them with the maintenance piece as well, and so they can provide you some options. I'm clear now.
The other, did you finish? I'm sorry. Okay. Before I move on to, I don't know if everybody knows that Horizon Elementary was not just vandalized, but vandalized savagely over the weekend. and about a third of the classrooms were unusable today. You're talking about school supplies, you're talking about students' work, you're talking about technology, you're talking about the facilities, broken windows. It runs the whole gambit, and this is about as bad a job of vandalizing as I've ever seen. This is not a quick break-in, find a classroom, ha ha ha, and get out. This was absolutely savage. So I would like to ask a couple things. One, let's get the word out about it as best we can. Social media, the stories on the News Journal, like, share, do whatever on your Facebook pages. So hopefully somebody knows something. So we're looking for some leads to help our police department out. Secondly, in that vein, the Chamber of Commerce and the Education Committee wants to help, and a lot of the supplies that were lost in that effort are things that they're scarce on to begin with. So they are going to serve as a collection point for anybody that wants to donate school supplies, paper products, etc. and so forth for Horizon Elementary School. You can find standard school lists online by Googling them up, but really whatever they don't need now, they're going to need later anyway. So I would ask as many people as you can in this community, your heart's intact, if everybody could just do a little something, and if nothing else, keep them in mind, because this is their house that got broken into. You're talking about little kids that need to feel secure going to school, and they come and find that. Talk about faculty and teachers that put their hearts out into what they do, and they come to work and they find their house in that shape. So we need to pull together and see what we can do to help them. And
Mayor,
appreciate anything anybody can do.
I'd also like to just say my heart goes out to the teachers as well, and you know, a lot of that stuff that was destroyed is personal property as well. You know, I know myself and a bunch of other teachers I work with, we spend thousands of dollars on our own classrooms to spice it up, for materials, to make it an attractive environment for kids to come in and learn, and that's from our pockets. So I imagine a lot of the damage was done not just to Volusia County school property, but to teachers' property that don't have the money to spend on it, but do anyway. And that's where my heart really broke today when I learned just how bad the devastation was and how awful they ripped up these rooms. That's a lot of personal property that teachers.
Elementary kids doing art projects.
Yeah.
I mean, it just runs the gambit. It's heartbreaking. And like I said, get the word out. Somebody knows something. Let's help our police department out, and let's help these kids out and these teachers best we can.
Mayor, is there a designated person or collection place that folks can go to if they want to drop off materials or?
At the Chamber building.
Okay.
Port Orange Chamber of Commerce, 3431 Ridgewood Avenue, in the Chamber building, which is in Riverwalk Park in the River District, Port Orange. So I found a way to work that in.
Standing.
So I appreciate that, and we really appreciate the chambers and showing big hearts and stepping up to help out best they can. I know that you all just finished a school supply drive, so here we go again. Last week, the roundtable of elected officials met. We heard the survey that was completed and paid for by a private entity. Basically expressed to the roundtable that there was sufficient support for a half-cent sales tax, but not for a 1-cent sales tax. And they spent about half an hour talking about the survey, and quite frankly, I'm like, great, that's good information, but what Tom Jordan said, the rubber meets the road between now and Election Day is what's in it and what are we getting. A lot of cities have put together what they would do with, and they're not necessarily specific projects. Some of them, like us, we don't have enough dollars just simply to maintain our roads and repave. So some of it is just simple maintenance. Some of them are actual road projects. I'm looking forward to the completed process of who plans to do what with where. I think that it's important that as public officials, whether you're for it or against it, we put it together in the best package possible so that people can decide for themselves. Each city is supposed to have a representative on a citizens board that is going to oversee it, much like the school board does with its half-cent sales tax, so that there'll be citizen oversight of how these tax dollars are spent. There is still an awful lot of work to do in a very little bit of time as far as wrapping all this up and putting it together and putting together exactly what it is everybody wants to do. Some of the cities want to use it not just for roads, but roads and infrastructure. Infrastructure might mean sewer repairs or septic to sewer. Some of these decisions have to be hashed out, and does the needs of Pearson or the needs of Oak Hill equal the needs of Port Orange or Daytona and or Ormond? No, they don't. Absolutely.
Correct.
The proposed formula as it is right now is for funding is by population. There is no additional formulas like the gas tax for road miles. There's no additional formula factored in for property values. The things that muddy the water on the gas tax issue that we didn't like. So it's straight up population. We also know that the county is going to get the lion's share of it, but the county also, we all drive on county roads every day, whether we realize it or not, in our own city or when we go to others. So as we pull that together and bring that forward, I think it's important that the elected officials and the city managers put together a comprehensive plan so that people see what they're getting or not, so they can decide for themselves. And that's really what's going to come down to, is people are going to get to decide for themselves whether they want to do this or not. If it's not a good project, people are not going to vote for it. And I'll tell people not to vote for it if you're not getting your bang for the buck. But I do realize right now, just from my own perspective, we're having trouble keeping up on road dollars right now, and it gets real only after the potholes start appearing. And when the potholes start appearing en masse, it's really kind of too late. So we need to kind of keep that in mind. So that's my 5-minute summary of the almost 2-hour meeting that we had last week. And if any of you guys want to attend the next one, come on, feel free. Any other council comments? Item 11, Port Orange Property Development, joint annual meeting of the members, directors and review board. We are recessing as council, and Scott, you chair that.
Call the annual meeting of the members, directors, and design review board of the Port Orange Property Development Incorporated to order. Roll call, please.
Chase Tremont.
Here.
Bob Ford.
Here.
Drew Bastian.
Here.
Don Burnett.
Here.
Scott Stiltner.
Here. Do I have any objection to the notice of the meeting?
None.
Here, no objected. The notice is accepted. Do I have a motion to approve the minutes of the January 17th,
So moved.
2017 meeting of the members and directors?
Second. Chase got the.
So
All the
moved.
vote? Oh, I'm sorry. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Do I have a motion to approve the minutes of the January 17th, 2017 meeting of the Design Review Board?
Motion to approve.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, election of board members. Do I have a motion to elect the board members? Drew Bastian, Don Burnett, Bob Ford, Scott Stiltner, and Chase Tremont.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Is there any further business to be brought before the members? There being none, we will move on to business of the Board of Directors. Election of officers. Item 7, election of officers of the Board of Directors.
I would like to renominate Mr. Scott Stiltner for the position of chairman.
Second.
He's done such a fantastic job.
Yes.
Second.
Appreciate all that. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
You can't say no.
Yeah, right. All right, do I have a nomination for vice chair?
I'd like to nominate Mr. Chase Tremont.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Who's the current vice chair?
Any opposed?
Is that you?
All right, item C, do I have a nomination for president?
I'd like to nominate Mr. Drew Bastian.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? And item D, do I have a nomination for vice president? Everybody gets a title in this.
Yeah.
I'd like to nominate Mr. Robert Ford.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear that second.
It was Chase.
Chase.
Thank you.
Sorry, Robin.
He's just
All in
helping
favor?
through this.
Aye.
Aye, aye.
Any opposed? And do I have a nomination for secretary?
I
No,
nominate
we have
Don
the-
Burnett.
I'll
as
second
secretary.
I was wondering who would get that.
that. He's the only one left.
I'm sorry, was there a second, Robin? Did you get that?
Yeah,
Okay.
Drew.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? We got that 5-0. All right, do I have a motion to re-elect the treasurer currently serving, which is Tracy Ream?
Motion to re-elect Tracy Ring.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
And any opposed? Item number 8, any further business to be brought before the Board of Directors? There being none, we will move on to the business of the Design Review Board, which is item 9. Do I have a nomination to elect chairman for a 1-year term?
Nominate Mr. Drew Bastian.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? And B, do I have a nomination to elect the vice chairman for a 1-year term?
I'd like to nominate Mr. Scott Stiltner.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Is there any further business of the Design Review Board? There being none, this annual meeting of the members, directors, and Design Review Board is hereby adjourned.
There we go.
Did you get all that, Robin?
I'm good.
All right.
All right.
With that adjournment, we move on to the City Corporate Park Property Owners Association Incorporated Annual Meeting of Board of Directors, chaired by one Mr. Bob Ford.
Yes.
Here, take your gavel. There you go. I can beat people over the head. There you
Don't have
go.
anything good to hit with it. The agenda. Roll call.
Don Burnett.
Here?
Drew Bastian.
Here.
Bob Ford.
Here.
Scott Stiltner.
Here.
Here.
Chase Tremont.
Yep.
Do we have proof of notice of meeting?
Do.
I believe we do.
I'd like the motion to accept the notice of meeting.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. I would like a motion to approve the minutes of January 17th, 2007.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I'm sorry, was that Don?
He's the
Burnett.
motion, he's the second.
Come on, Robin.
Okay,
Well, the meeting minutes are January 17, 2017.
correct.
Did you get your vote in
Aye.
there? Aye.
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 We now will have the election of the Board of Directors for a 1-year term. I'd like to propose the Board of Directors to be elected: Drew Bastian, Donald Burnett, Bob Ford, Scott Stilt, Chase Tremont. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Such other business as may be brought before the members of the corporation. Do we have any additional business to be brought? No? If no, we will call the meeting then to a close.
Fantastic.
Okay.
Here we go.
Brought a tear to my eye, guys. Way to go.
All right.
Here's Bobby Ball.
Board appointments, interviews, reports. Item 13, Citizen Advisory Committee for TPO, Mr. Bobby Ball.
Good evening, Bobby Ball with the CAC for the TPO. We had our monthly meeting, and I'll be brief tonight. The one item that was interesting for Port Orange is that the TPO's reconfirming their priorities with regards to the interstate, and on that are the 3 interchanges, improvements to LPGA Boulevard in 95, improvements to US 1 in 95, and the commitment to the interchange at Pioneer Trail. And currently they're going through a PD&E study right now. So outside of that, they talked about safety targets and some other riveting stuff that you'll get next month.
I look forward to it.
Any questions, comments?
No, sir.
That's my line. Any questions or comments from Mr. Ball?
I just have one. Bob, is there any attempt going to be made, because TPO has a whole bunch of priority projects. What's going on with the half-cent sales tax is going to interface very heavily with that. Mm-hmm. And is there any attempt to make sense, make sure that it works together seamlessly if it comes to pass, at least the proposal?
I think so. I think as was mentioned earlier, the priority would probably come straight off the priority list that we've already established. But yes, Lois is pretty good. I can follow up with her and find out, but I believe she's well in tune with what's going on.
And basically the sales tax, if it comes to be, would pay for the municipal portion or the county portion of the TPO dollars. In other words, they would be the 10% match.
I believe so.
Yeah. Because TPO, why I'm asking that is TPO dollars is a pass-through from the federal government. It's sort of a type of confused revenue sharing for roads. So that's.
So just so I can clarify, it could be used for the match.
Could be used.
It doesn't have to be.
Right.
I don't want to confuse it, but yes, we at the city manager level and some mayors, we've talked about using the match, increasing the match, because you get more points if you use more than 10%.
That's it. Right. Could it be used to increase?
Yes.
Okay. Very good.
It can be used for anything that the referendum says it could be used for. Transportation. So TPO, transportation, trails, sidewalks, roads.
Perfect.
But right now our local roads, our city roads, are not TPO projects per se, so we would now have more money to work on those as well.
Okay.
So, for what it's worth. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Item 14, Parks and Rec Advisory Board appointments. The following individuals' terms are up, and all 5 have expressed a desire to be reappointed. Mr. John Cameron Jr., Mr. Robert Ball, Mrs. Maria Mills-Bennett, Mr. Mark Bowling, and Mrs. Julie Day.
Julie Day has not responded.
I've spoken to her.
Oh, okay.
She has. Not to you.
Yeah, we never heard.
I called her this evening.
Okay.
Who's this Maria Mills? What?
Yeah, who's it?
I second that.
No meatballs for him.
Joe.
May I have a nomination for one or all?
Joe.
I move that we appoint all 5.
Second.
Second.
Would any of those 5 people here, any of those who are here, like to come up here and talk us out of it? Yeah, I gather you don't. I saw Mark shuffling in his chair, because the pay and benefits are just incredible, right?
Oh, I was hoping to double it.
Oh, we are.
We will.
It's in the budget.
All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? None opposed?
Yeah.
You all are rehired.
Mayor, can I add something? Mr. Macaluso is, I think he's already serving on one of our boards.
Environmental advisory.
Environmental advisory, so let's just keep him current, and if something else pops up, we'll notify him, because I think he clarified like 4 or 5 boards that he'd serve on, so he's a good guy.
Good.
Good work. Good.
That is good to know. Item 15. Up for reconsideration this evening is ordinance number 2017-34. An ordinance of the City of Port Orange, Volusia County, Florida, approving the 8th Amendment to the amended and restated Master Redevelopment Agreement for Port Orange Gateway Center and Planned Commercial Development, PCD, and the Conceptual Development Plan, CDP, providing for repeal of conflicting ordinances, providing for severability, and providing for an effective date. You have a motion for approval?
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion, we have a second. The item is on the floor. I was going to say,
Short agenda.
so this is the PowerPoint you're about to show us?
Yes.
In 6-minute increments?
Mayor, for clarification, I believe staff made a presentation in your first review of this item, so that will be referenced and made part of the record here.
Very good.
For the record, my name is Glenn Storch, and I should point out that I was also present when these trees were planted. So I feel 16.
So you don't look the same either.
No, I probably do not. But, you know, I was also listening to the invocation. And what it taught me is how important it is to listen and listen to each other. And I guess, how do I change this? How do I move this? Okay.
Tell us who you are.
My name is Glenn Storch.
Okay.
And I represent the applicant in this case. And when I came in, I mean, I wasn't involved in this at the very beginning, but when I did come in, I thought it was important to listen. And we listened to the staff, we listened to the City Commission very much. And what I heard from the City Commission is that you have certain goals. And your goals were these things right here. You're looking for positive economic development, but you're looking for some way to minimize the traffic impacts of that positive economic development. Mm-hmm. And you're looking for people who will work together to help resolve the existing traffic issues. And so I'm very fortunate in this case because I represent Ferber, and they have been very committed to doing just that. So let's start with the positive economic development part of this. As you know, this is the Gateway MDA. This is your major commercial area in Port Orange. Well, one of your major commercial areas. It was one of the first major commercial areas. There are several popular area businesses with the Gateway, and we've been able to expand it through the years and attract additional businesses to it, which is a great thing for us and a great thing for the city. So what we're doing now is we're creating a new lot within that MDA. Typically, the MDA is a master development agreement, and you have specific things that are allowed within that master development agreement. It's a contract between the city and the landowner. And when this contract was originally done, it allowed for a certain number of lots. Now, recently, we amended this and allowed for the a lot that created the area where Starbucks is now. So that was one of the things we did add to it. In fact, Ferber also owns that parcel and did a great job, I think, with that one. So when they looked at this, this was didn't come in, and it was the idea was you're going to create a new lot, and therefore that required an amendment to the MDA. However, I should point out something. This utilizes existing entitlements. The target parcel, and we'll get into this a little while later, but the target parcel has existing entitlements to it. A certain number of square feet that it's entitled to use on this parcel. And had they done this in such a way where it was just a retail parcel, and there was no need for changing the lot, if they were going to lease this lot as opposed to creating a new lot and selling it, then there would be no need for a rezoning or an MDA. They could simply go through a site plan review, like any other business that's already approved, and build it. But this, because of the fact that it had these additional things we were looking for, required an amendment to the MDA. Now, that's all fine and good. But I did want to point out that this does not increase the commercial square footage already allocated to this site. So, let's talk about planning, because this is what all this is about when we're working together on this. And this is your commercial area. This is the area you've designated for a commercial comprehensive plan designation. And the county staff, when they were looking at this amendment, found this proposed amendment to the MDA, to the PUD, consistent with the comprehensive plan. So you have a staff recommendation of approval on this, and you have a planning board recommendation of approval. I believe that was unanimous recommendation of approval to allow for this proposal. And what they're proposing, like I say, is you see this in the PowerPoint that's before you now. It's a new building, a strip center, but it also allows for this new parcel to be created. And again, I want to stress, if this was just a retail parcel that they were leasing as opposed to selling, no problems. So I should also point out that the target parcel that has the allocation now, the entitlements, those allocations will be reduced if this is built. So it's not like we're adding any additional commercial whatsoever. I want to talk about how good this is for the city of Port Orange, though, because this is the sort of thing that, again, the city is after, from what I'm hearing. You're after good economic development. And the reason for this is because, for instance, this is a $3 million project. This $3 million project will generate about $58,000 in taxes. And those tax revenues on an ad valorem project like this, it helps to reduce and keep residential taxes down, because the more commercial taxes you are generating, the less you have to rely upon residential. You are typically looking for a percentage, a large percentage of your tax revenues to be from commercial. The municipalities that have large residential and small commercial have the highest residential taxes because they have no choice. So you've done very well in this, and you've now become a commercial center for Volusia County. This also, of course, creates new jobs for our young people, new jobs for our area, and also continues to revitalize our commercial areas as opposed to allowing them to run down. There are 4 units that are going to be in this particular site. There's going to be a Zales jeweler, maybe as a K jeweler, we're not sure yet, but it's going to be a jewelry store. Again, very low traffic impact for jewelry stores. You don't have people running up and down for jewelry stores. One of the things I thought was interesting is when you looked at this before, you didn't know what was being proposed for this site, what businesses were being proposed, and you didn't have the tax impact, or the traffic impacts of these sites. So I thought it was important to let you know what we are actually proposing, because the things we're proposing are actually very low impact. The jewelry store, again, has low impact, it's an upscale use. There'll be also a couple of other projects. There's a small Pac Dental. There's another small retail that we don't have leased out. These ones I'm telling you about are already leased, and these are generally 10-year leases. But the best one to me is the First Watch. And the First Watch is a farm-to-table breakfast, brunch, and lunch restaurant. And this is it's a franchise, it's a chain. A lot of them are across some of Florida, some across the Midwest. I went to the one in St. Louis because my daughter took me there because she loved it so much, and it was spectacular. And I thought we were very fortunate to be able to get this. And this will be the first Watch in Volusia County. And it shows you what Port Orange has become when you have upscale developments or upscale projects like this wanting to come to Port Orange first. So this is what is going to be there. It also gives us an opportunity to say this minimizes traffic impact, because this closes at 2:30. It doesn't have any impact after 2:30, so there's no impact to the PM peak hours, which I think is a great thing. And again, this is a 10-year lease. So these are the things we're looking at. I've also done other things to help minimize traffic impacts as a result of this project. One thing we've done is we have put a provision in there and a condition to this MDA, which again is something I can do when you're amending the zoning, to prevent this site from ever having a drive-through.
Thank you.
And because those tend to generate larger traffic and tend to generate other issues. I've also specifically prohibited additional access points within the shopping center, and so that also will help. These are based on the recommendations of our traffic engineer and things that we can do to minimize traffic. So I looked at this as a 3-part problem. a three-part issue. One, of course, is we're entitled, but let's see what we can do to make this better. Two, how can I minimize traffic by utilizing the PUD structure? And then three, let's talk about how we can work together to resolve existing traffic issues that are already out there. These are not traffic issues that we're causing, but as long as we're part of this process and as long as we're part of this community, what can we do to help? So let's start with the fact that we'll be providing about $25,000 for our prop share, and that will help for improvements on Yorktown and Summer Trees. Again, with the goal being to help improve traffic flow for this commercial area that seems to be getting a little clogged. Uh-oh. There we go. Because this is the important part. Beyond that, as you heard me talking about some other things we had in mind that would help in my motion for a continuance last time. And some of those things were, well, why don't we look at contributing money toward a traffic study that will help us change the signalization timing for these lights in this area. That's one of the things that causes a major traffic backup. So, and other traffic improvements that might be appropriate. Rather than us doing this and you watching over our backs, what we've done instead is work out a deal with the city that we're simply going to provide you the full amount that we were looking at spending. We were looking at spending up to $70,000. We're just going to give you the entire $70,000, and you can then utilize it for how you think is appropriate and what area, the study area, you think should be, how large you think it should be, whatever it takes to get this thing working. So I think it benefits us because obviously if you have better traffic flow, it will have more people wanting to come to this area and come to our properties. I think it benefits the city. It's the sort of thing what happens when you work together. And I want to point out again, this is all voluntary, but the requirements, but I'm placing this as a requirement in the MDA. And so it will be a requirement based on this rezoning. And I think that's already in there. I'm sure that's already in there. So in conclusion, I just wanted to talk about the fact that obviously this amendment, especially as now drafted, meets the city's goals. I hope that meets the city's goals as to what you're looking for. It's consistent, obviously, with the staff and the planning board recommendations. It allows us to increase entitlements without increasing the allocated commercial square foot. Or I'm sorry, it utilizes existing entitlements without increasing additional commercial areas. And this is very important. If we didn't do it as a MDA amendment, you could still put these things in here, but you wouldn't have all these additional conditions and the additional voluntary obligations that we're creating for this project as something we can do to work together. I think it's good for the Gateway PUD, the Gateway Center. I think it is good for the citizens of Port Orange. So hopefully we've done everything right, and obviously we have our traffic engineer, we have our site plan engineer, we have our owner. Anyone you'd like to talk to, we have here to answer any questions. Thank you.
Appreciate it. Jake, before we open up to questions, is there anything that you need to add for us to, or I know that we have already had a staff presentation.
The staff presentation still stands. As you can see, there's traffic impact fees and other monies being obligated for things that we see fit. Tim is working with Public Works. We're going to look at turn lanes and things of that nature to mitigate any of the council's concerns with the additional money provided.
I know that they're also, and this is not necessarily us, but they're also looking at things within the shopping center.
That's correct. Yeah, that's.
I did point it. I should have pointed it out. That's correct.
As Chick-fil-A.
We had our traffic engineer look at everything to see what we could do to help. And again, not because of the fact we're causing any real impacts, because the number of impacts we're causing are maybe 30 trips extra. But what we do want to do is see what we can do to help. And one of those things is there's a major entrance right now that has a four-way stop. That seems to be a bottleneck. And so we're going to be working together with the entire shopping center and with our traffic engineer to try to resolve that.
I think that would help alleviate at least a little bit frustrations of a lot of people, because it's already a highly trafficked.
That's right.
Yeah.
So, I mean, most of these things are existing issues that I think we can help solve.
And I think I'm pretty happy to know that you're not generating the trips that Starbucks already and Chick-fil-A already generates. I just...
We're talking about drive-thrus.
Yeah. Well, we talked about that, and I'm glad not only the business that exists is not going to have one, but we're memorializing it for any existing...
That's correct.
Future businesses that may or may not.
You also, this has a little bit of impact on Yorktown, Mayor, and you know we're moving toward our Yorktown extension as well, so it's important that we...
Positive impact.
Yep, sure is.
Let's start with you, Chase. A couple questions, then a few comments. And I think, Jake, you might have just briefed it, because we discussed extending the left-hand turn lane into Target.
Yes.
Is that part of the 70,000, or is that a separate?
It is. What we had was we had a certain number set aside for the traffic signalization study, and we had money set aside for extending the left turn lane. It wouldn't have cost all of this. I mean, our budget, I think, we had a budget of up to 70, but we had estimated it was going to cost around 45 to 50 to do these things we talked about. Rather than deal with that, because we were going to give the extra money to the city anyway, we're just giving it to the city. And so the city now can deal with if they think there's a necessity for an extra extension of that turn lane, you got it. If there's if there's a necessity to change the parameters of the traffic signalization timing study, the city can deal with it.
And is there any removal of the current landscape?
He was just suggesting also it's easier for the city to deal with DOT.
I'm sorry?
It's also easier for the city to deal with DOT.
Right.
Yeah.
Is there any, will there be any removal of the current landscape, and will you add anything back?
Actually, thank you for bringing that up. I had a note on that. Actually, we're going to be adding landscape. Most of this is set in an existing impervious surface, an existing parking lot. And so you're going to have the building, which will look much better than a parking lot, and then you'll have landscaping as well. So it's a win-win-win.
To me, this whole project is a darned if you do, darned if you don't, because when you do, we're going to get ripped from it. Because people are going to ask, why are you putting more stuff? Why are you packing in? I don't want anything else in there. But the fact is, something's going in. This is very similar to Serenity Hills. Something is going to go there.
Right.
Our job here is to at least mitigate what we can. And if we have an opportunity to control, for lack of a better word, what can go in here, because currently, correct me if I'm wrong, currently the current zoning permits any big box store, John's Appliance or if Best Buy wanted to go in there right now, they wouldn't even need our approval, correct?
That is correct. Any retail up to a certain number of square feet is already approved.
Yeah, I'd just hate to be 6 years down the road and a big box store comes in and plants right in there. I had an opportunity to at least mitigate. You got a diner that closes at 2:30 and a minimal traffic area. To me, this is common sense development.
I think this is also important to give credit to Ferber, because the fact that they're willing to step up to the plate and work together. Somebody else coming in there may not want to do that.
Agreed. Yeah, I think he's gone above and beyond, and I appreciate the developer as well. Bob?
Yeah, had a very good meeting, which is my. I've always been willing to meet with all sides of the issue prior to the meeting. And I was asked to meet, and I did meet. We had a good horse trading session, I would say. I am much happy with the proposal now for several reasons. One, clearly the amount of traffic generation is far less than we originally anticipated. In fact, I'm pretty well convinced after looking at the statistics that the majority of the traffic will be traffic already in the area.
Yeah.
So it really has minimal impacts on Dunlawton. People are not going to be going to these places except in very few numbers that aren't already there. So that was right there. I also want to compliment the developers, because they did provide some meaningful assistance to the city as part of the proposal to help deal with, one, the mess and the traffic in the parking lot, which is a crucial problem there. It's,
Right.
And it's, you know, it's something not of that development's making, but it's right there, and we can now use this to help with that. The other, and we also were provided some funds to help address the broader traffic issues in the area, and that's important. I am also cognizant of state law, that unless one has one heck of a good reason, one does not take away people's property rights. And clearly, you know, we need to always be cognizant of that. So after sitting down and talking and reaching some very healthy compromises, which I think deal with the problem of congestion unhappily, you know, we're going to have to do a lot more, and this is just the beginning of trying to deal with the traffic on Dunlawton. I am convinced, after meeting and looking at the engineering and the traffic engineers' work and the like, that we're not going to have major traffic problems created by this particular enterprise, or Ford enterprise as it condemns. So I come to, you know, I feel a lot different after seeing the change proposal. I think the proposal now is probably in the best interest of the city.
Scott?
I think I have an MDA agreement with my wife that if there's jewelry stores or shoe stores involved, I'm not allowed to oppose projects. So I'm kind of in a difficult position now anyhow.
Saying this could affect your wallet.
I do appreciate the comments made by Councilman Tremont and Councilman Ford, and the willingness of the developer and your team to address some of our concerns and truly try to understand them. They're real. Those perceptions are real in our community, and
Right.
But I do think that you've made some really great points here. The no drive-through thing for me that's big. Working on that area there along with Chick-fil-A to try to resolve some of that area and, you know, those issues that are in there, that's going to be important. I think we'll go a long way, no question. I agree. These are lower impact style yet quality businesses that will fit in our community. So I'm excited to see that. I too, like Chase pointed out, realize there's other alternatives, and some of those we would rather not have. So this is a much better fit, and I appreciate the points and the time and the effort to understand our concerns and to try to help us, you know, alleviate some of those and minimize.
So I hope this will be a model for how we can start working together on other ones in this area.
Sure.
Appreciate that. Drew?
I also had a good, we didn't have time to meet, so I had a phone conversation with Glenn, and he explained everything pretty much, you know, exactly how he broke it down here. The one question on the 58,000, approximately 58K in taxes, is that a net after the sales going from Target to here, so they'll have a slight reduction, correct? In their property taxes, but I mean, it's impervious, so it's not, there's not a high
The
value.
improved value that you're looking at.
Yeah.
There probably would be, don't forget you're looking at this as a separate parcel now.
Yeah.
And so that's the difference. And so I don't know what the actual value, the actual total value for Target would have been.
Okay.
But
So we're going to see a very slight reduction on them, but it's going to more,
think so.
okay.
You might not, because sometimes the market value of your neighbor can drive the
correct.
value of your own business
Yeah.
up.
that's true.
Okay. All right. Very
Anything
good.
else?
Thank you, Glenn. Appreciate it.
I'd like to make one other important observation. The breakfast place will probably serve as a, you know, business outlet for our urban chickens.
There you go. Yeah.
And then there's that.
Thought
We have an urban chicken here.
They keep coming back. The one thing that I think this council is trying to take, the die has been cast on a lot of this stuff a long time ago.
Right.
And we're dealing with the issues created now, and we're trying to take a big picture approach to your project in and of itself was a good project, And when we apply a big picture approach, we want to see the impact on the big picture. And really appreciate how you've stepped up and willingness to work with, because you know me, a drive-through would have been a deal breaker.
Yeah, but again, this was the client willing to work together, and I really appreciate that.
Absolutely, and not only that, I appreciate your professionalism and taking your time to meet with me. There are always concerns and there are trade-offs. One thing that Port Orange is known for is a lot of times when there's something new and chic, we get it first. And so that's something to look forward to as well. And
you're going to love
think
this
that's
restaurant.
something that's what I'm afraid of.
They're probably going to come back and open a second location.
I'm hoping they will,
Waffle
actually.
House.
With that, let's hear from the public. Anybody else like to speak to this? Come on up. Tell us who you are.
Good evening. I'm Debbie Connors, Port Orange South Daytona Chamber of Commerce, and I truly appreciate your positive comments on this project. I just can't imagine asking a developer to do any more than the concessions and compromises that they've made to make this project work. I know we're all concerned about the traffic on Dunlawton. I truly believe this will complement the business community there, and so I want to encourage your positive consideration, and thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Deb.
Who else would like to speak? Come on, Derek.
Hi, Derek Lamontagne. I just want to thank the council for making, well, not making, but having a reconsideration of this, because I think there has been a lot of improvement. So I just want to thank the council. I said I'd speak on this, so I just wanted to make a comment. Also, I did have a question about the traffic comments and studies. I just want to see, where can I find that, or the public in general sort of find? I understand, the council did a great job meeting individually kind of with the developer. Can the public maybe get access to sort of the numbers and those traffic studies, kind of, especially to go along with the point of a comprehensive approach, and really just to see if we can see what the numbers really will change as.
Anything that wasn't included in the agenda packet, you can request it from Robin.
Okay, thank you very much.
Mm-hmm. If we've got it, we'll be happy to share. Anybody else? Back to council. Any other comments? Let's call the question.
Councilman Ford.
Yes.
Councilman Tremont.
Yes.
Councilman Bastian.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Stiltner.
Yes.
Mayor Burnett.
Yes.
Sorry, I was trying to turn the timer off. I wanted to go off again.
Good luck.
Thank you.
Gentlemen, appreciate it.
Welcome to Port Orange. Again.
A lot of this
When's
is the
First
way,
Watch opening? Okay.
I'm going to say this is the way it's supposed to work. Working together for a better product, us and you, and we appreciate that.
This will be our third project in Port Orange, so we enjoyed it. So thank you all very much.
Make it good.
Safe trip home, guys.
Brings us to item 16. Ordinance number 2018-1. An ordinance of the City of Port Orange, Volusia County, Florida, approving inland, we trust, planned unit development, master development agreement, MDA, and the conceptual development plan, CDP, providing for repeal of conflicting ordinances, providing for severability, and providing for an effective date. May I have a motion?
Motion to approve.
Second.
We have a motion, we have a second. Mr. Berman.
Urban Community Development. The proposal is a master development agreement and conceptual development plan for a piece of property. It's about 3/4 acres. It's a small little triangle. It's currently zoned PUD, but there is no active MDA or concept plan on it. It's kind of a leftover remnant then. Basically what's being proposed is to allow for, on this 3/4 acre property, one single family home to be developed on it. Also, there's some language that speaks to, in the MDA specifically, that upon approval of that will require a small portion of it on this corner right here, basically to the deed of dedication to the City of Port Orange, for basically to ensure that we have sufficient right-of-way for the Yorktown Boulevard and make that turn to go north up to Willow Run. The MDA is written to basically allow for the single-family home construction to occur. Basically, once that roadway has been constructed, so a driveway could be out to it. Currently, the property would be required to build a bridge over the canal, which would want to reduce the amount of bridges we have over our canal. So Seeing this as basically allows for the use to be established on the property, just one single-family home on that lot, and then also would indicate the deed of dedication of that small portion of right-of-way to the city for the future Yorktown Boulevard. Staff is recommending the approval of the proposed MDA concept plan.
Questions from Mr. Berman? Start with you, Drew.
They're going to put one, and you're saying the bridge is not going to be required?
Is one single-family home would be allowed. If they choose to go through the exercise of putting a bridge over that canal, they can.
Okay.
And the owner, but they were looking not to go through that.
Okay, so
that exercise. So this, once Yorktown is constructed, it would allow them to have a standard driveway on that property.
okay,
So,
that's what I wasn't clear on. Thank you.
but it's just the maximum number of homes that can be built on is one single-family home.
On .778. Okay.
Yes. A large majority is traversed by that canal that goes through there. So there's only a small area that's kind of developable for a single-family home.
Okay.
Kind of a standard size lot right now, about 3/4 of an acre.
Yeah, it's a good size.
Scott?
It's amazing how we end up with lots configured that
Like
that way when you come down to it.
It's like Tetris. It's kind of
Right?
one shape that falls
Yeah.
in there.
No, I don't have any questions.
Bob?
No problem. Always entertained. The last parcel
Right?
is always entertaining.
How that puzzle piece fits into the
Yeah.
big map. Right? Chase?
I'm good, Mayor.
Anyone else like to speak to this? Hello, Dan.
Robert Reinhagen, 1425 Dexter Drive, Port Orange. I just was looking for a clarification because this is a huge property there that this is adjacent to, that the original PDU was. And I'm just wondering if this 1 3/4 acre parcel is being separated from the rest of that land. It is.
Yes.
So there would be no real requirement for this guy to put in further extension of Yorktown or this bridge over the canal, because he'd be accessing it through Yorktown Boulevard.
Correct.
Right.
Around the Cornerstone area.
Right. No Yorktown, no access.
Yeah, okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Robert. Derek, did I see you with your hand up again? Or are you going to play ladies first?
Yeah. No, she's leaving.
Come on.
Try to be a gentleman when I can. But, so again, I said I would talk about this. So this was important to me because, like I said yesterday, was Martin Luther King Day, and so doing our civil duty and civic duty is important. And I decided to spend that time yesterday going door to door in that neighborhood to really get a feeling for what those residents want. And I asked in terms of what they'd like to see about the Yorktown extension, and if there's ways, alternatives to implement that, because as you know, it's not currently built, although there are plans to make it a 4-lane road with a grass median currently on the books, and at least to have a segment, the first half segment will cost $2.4 million to the city. So this all sort of ties into how much we're paying for our infrastructure. So I asked the residents there, who you would say might benefit the most, and I actually found that the vast majority of the people, again, who live on the street right off of the current end of Yorktown, going into Hidden Lake Drive and all those little roads, including kind of the place that is behind where this stub out will be, which is why I'm speaking on at this item. They all oppose the 4-laning of Yorktown. And the reason is multiple reasons, but in general, they feel it's actually going to bring more traffic, it's going to bring more noise, it's going to cost the city a lot, and it's going to hurt the environment. And for all those reasons, they have signed on to a petition. Again, I got dozens of signatures just yesterday. I'm happy to listen to the council and you tell me like you need a number, you say I need like 500 signatures, and we'll totally reconsider making it maybe just a 2-lane or something, and I'll get those for you. But again, just spending a few hours yesterday going around, I got dozens of signatures from that area in a petition that says, we, the undersigned residents of the city of Port Orange, oppose the proposed extension of Yorktown Boulevard north of its current terminus at Hidden Lake Drive and associated removal of forests and wetlands that it will bring. So that's kind of my issue at the moment. It's costing us a lot, and it's not just in terms of money, 2.4 million again, to a road that at the moment is just going to be segmented, and I believe there's going to be a middle segment, a north segment, as you know, from its current terminus. But it's really, do we need to do this now? Are there better ways we can use our resources? And that's basically what I'm trying to see, if there's a way we can perhaps make the road, for instance, have some kind of barrier near it to sort of shield the residents, like, you know, more foliage like bamboo like they did behind the BJ's, which is also Yorktown Boulevard. There's no current proposal to put in a wall or bamboo or foliage. And I know back in the day we did actually reduce the median there, so I'm hoping maybe we can make alternatives and common sense alternatives. Thank you.
Thank you. Of course, that's not what this issue is about, but we'll keep that in mind. Thank you. Anybody else like to speak to this? There being none, back to us. Any final comments, council? There being none, call the question.
Councilman Ford.
Yes.
Councilman Tremont.
Yes.
Councilman Bastian.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Stiltner.
Yes.
Mayor Burnett.
Yes. 5-0. That takes us to item 17, which is ordinance number 2018-2. An ordinance of the City of Port Orange, Volusia County, Florida, extending the existing moratorium on the issuance of permits for construction of wireless facilities, communication towers, wireless support structures, and other communication facilities used in support of wireless services within the right-of-way of the City of Port Orange, providing for the duration of extension, providing for interpretation, providing for definitions, providing for repeal of conflicting ordinances, providing for severability, providing for codification, and providing for an effective date. And providing I'd have a drink of water after you.
Motion to approve ordinance number 2018-2.
Second. We have a motion, a second. Margaret, you speaking to this?
I can address your questions. I don't have any additional information on this. I believe it's coming through community development.
Okay. Just, I mean, I have, but let's blow through it real quick.
Yeah.
Drew?
No, because it makes sense to extend it. We don't know where those communication towers are going to end up yet. So, until we get something from the state, we got to protect ourselves.
Absolutely. Scott?
Nothing.
Bob?
No.
Chase? No comment. This is just another one. It's like the state knows best because communities don't know what's good for themselves, and we can no longer speak for ourselves. It seems like the attitude in Tallahassee these days. And this is a byproduct of something they did to it, stuck to us last year. So, anyone else in the audience like to speak to this? There being none, call the roll.
Councilman Ford.
Yes.
Councilman Tremont.
Yes.
Councilman Bastian.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Stiltner.
Yes.
Mayor Burnett.
Yes, 5-0. Item 18, American Cancer Society Relay for Life fee waiver request. And who might that be? It's a Sulabala sighting.
Good evening, Susan Valla, Parks and Recreation Director. What's before you is the American Cancer Society is requesting a fee waiver for the use of Riverwalk Park for their annual Relay for Life event. The applicant has requested that they have a fee waiver for the rental costs. They are willing to pay the $250 staff costs and provide the liability insurance. The event is scheduled to take place on May 19th. The event planners are here and can answer any of your specific questions to the event if you wish. And that is kind of where we are, and I can also answer any questions if you have any.
I think we do wish.
Mayor, one additional add-on. You had asked last council meeting to have a workshop about addressing the fee structure. We had one of these. It was a partnership, if you will, or a discussion. We haven't had that workshop yet. I think it's coming up, but here we are again addressing before the workshop. So just to let you know.
Thank you.
Yep.
I know you're chomping at the bit, so come on up. Tell us what you're looking for. I was going to say, they can't let you come up by yourself.
I know, right?
That would not be fair. Council, make a motion for approval so we can have discussion.
Make a motion to approve.
Second.
We have a motion second for approval. We can now discuss it. Tell us who you are.
Thank you. I'm Cheryl Shaw. I'm not sure if I'm supposed to say my address, but it's 160 Poinciana. So I'm a volunteer with the American Cancer Society, excuse me, and I'm serving as the event lead for Relay for Life for 2018. Again,
I was going to say, how'd you get drafted to do that again this year?
Because I'm hard to replace.
There you go.
This is true.
This is time number 5 leading for me. So yeah, apparently I am hard to replace. So as Susan already stated, we're not requesting a waiver of the fees that the city has to put out because I don't believe that that would be fair to do. And if we can't get a complete reduction in the fee, waiver of the fees, then I would ask for a reduction in the fees. To give some perspective on this, for every $1,000 that we save, we can send 2 cancer patients to a week's stay, provide a week's free stay for them in a Hope Lodge during their treatment, or that same $1,000 we would save would get 28 patients to and from their treatments through Road to Recovery. So that's what every dollar that I can save on fees is a dollar that we put towards our mission of saving lives. So that's why I am asking for the waiver. And again, I think you're all familiar with this organization is volunteer driven. So for every 1 American Cancer Society employee to 400 of us. So I know there's a lot of people that come forward and ask for their fees to be waived. And I understand there will be more behind me. I'm passionate about this cause, and I feel this cause is different because it's more community driven. Every cause has merit, I understand that, but I just feel passionate about this one. Did you want to add anything to me? No? Okay. Do you have any questions?
That says it all. Questions, Council? Drew?
No, I don't have any questions for you. I think your organization, does really good things and helps a lot of people, and that's something to be very proud of. Taking that part away from it, you look at that contribution, and you have to look at it as a business decision as well. So it's difficult to rank and approve these requests. When they're starting to come on a regular basis.
I understand that.
Scott?
Well, first, I'm very excited that you guys are choosing this venue.
It's a great venue.
One of the things that I've noticed over the years is that you guys have made great do with the venues that you've had, but I've always kind of looked at it and felt like, man, there's got to be a little bit of a better venue, right? And so I see this one, this is going to be great. It really is. I think it's going to be an awesome venue for what you do. Having seen this firsthand and been part of some of the relays, I get this. This is a direct impact on our community. We have a tremendous amount of people that have either been through this disease or know people close to them, or not so close to them, but it impacts everybody. And so I'm very happy that this event is held in our city. And I'm very, very thankful and happy to see that it's going to be at this venue, because that's what this venue was built for, is stuff like this. Draw the community together and closer, have a good time, celebrate, raise money, do all these different kinds of things. And this is just going to be another great venue to have, event to have down there. So congrats on that. And I look forward to supporting this event down there this year. So.
Making a difference. Bob?
Yeah. I have a special interest in what you do. We go back historically. I can remember as far back as when I was police chief. We were active, you were active here in Port Orange, and over the years you've done so much good. I myself am a cancer survivor, and I've watched all the good you've done to those less fortunate than I, who didn't have the wherewithal to have someone pick them up and the like. You've just been, the American Cancer Society has been so wonderful, particularly its volunteer side, for what you're doing to less fortunate in our community. I don't have a problem with using public property for positive public growth and community support. What you're doing is in the public interest, and that's why we have public parks, to foster the public interest. So in your case, I don't see the city as a business. I would like us to operate more like a business, but our purpose is not to compete with the private sector and not to be a venue to make a profit at. Our profit is the good of our community. And I clearly, when I take that into account, you are doing wonderful things for the community, and I support that.
Thank you.
Chase? It's hard to improve on the comments that have already been made. I certainly appreciate what you do. My mother's a cancer survivor, so certainly warms my heart what your organization does. I should specify, I don't know, legal should be aware, my wife does serve on voluntarily on the board for this. I don't know if that should require me to vote or abstain from voting.
I'm going to recommend you abstain out of, ultimate discretion on that, not having had a chance to really look at the makeup closely. I think that's in the best interest.
Just to clarify, she serves on the volunteer committee planning the event, not the board, just to...
Okay.
All right, that's better.
Okay.
But better,
some sort of board.
Better to be safe.
All right.
I just recommend the abstention.
Okay.
An abundance of caution. Just my suggestion, and I hope this is what you meant in your motion, and please clarify if it is. I'm looking at a motion to waive all the fees except for the ones where we're paying our event staff. Is that what your motion was? The two, waiving the rental fees, but not
yes,
as
correct.
written.
What about
Correct.
the liability, the insurance?
No.
We have that already.
That's their
Okay.
that's their deal. Jake, did you have anything to add?
And just as we look forward to the workshop to discuss, I think I heard what is going to happen here loud and clear. Our current fee resolution that has been voted on by council runs contrary to providing for free services at the park. So keep that in mind as we workshop the fee structure to determine what we're going to do moving forward. And this isn't because staff, I talked to Cheryl about this, this isn't because staff is good for the community. We just need to properly budget for how we're going to move forward. If we're not going to charge or charge nominally or some percentage, we can effectively budget for a whole year's worth of that. There are, I'll tell you, they're lining up behind Relay for Life. You're going to hear a lot of these here in the next few months.
Jay, can we not have any more requests until we have that
No,
workshop?
I can't.
You can put them in abeyance, but
I
I
can
think
put 'em
the
in abeyance,
events are
yeah.
clocking forward, and that's why they're coming forward
Yeah,
to
the events
meet
won't
their
happen
deadlines.
if we do that. I can't.
And I don't think that's
So-
necessarily fair. We
And
can
we're hearing
exercise
it
our
in
due
February.
good. We exercise our judgment as these come up
Yeah.
individually until then.
Yep. But
This is community building at its finest, and
no, I concur, Mayor. I want you to know that staff concurs. This becomes a
no.
We're not
my
budgeting
feelings
for it.
for staff on this is
Yeah.
you guys cannot decide which
No,
ordinances
absolutely.
to enforce and which are not.
Right.
So bringing it forward like this for us to be able to take action on is by far the right thing to do, and until we
But-
decide
but
from
it
a policy
becomes-
point otherwise.
It becomes, I've tried for the 3 years I've been here to take a lot of the slop out of the budget. And so we're not budgeting for an inordinate amount of fee waivers. So if we're gonna waive a lot, we need to come up with some number so I can budget for it, and therefore we're not scrambling for dollars or taking them from other sources to pay the bill. We'd love to pay the bill. Staff concurs with council. We just need to be able to pay for it through the budget process. So help us with that as we work with the workshop next week. Next month?
Next month, yeah.
Same thing, right?
You brought company. Would you guys stand up? Just want to make sure that you guys get recognized. All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Before we vote, this one's tough because we have a roughly $4 million park and we want to encourage events, but we don't want to encourage people lining up to seek fee waivers for these events, and it's a tough one. So, when I vote, if I don't support it, it's not a knock against the organization or what you do or who you are. I know it's a great organization. I know they do great things.
You're going to be out there.
But I don't want to set up people running here to seek fee waivers. So a lack of support would not be a knock against anything you all are doing, because I know people who in my family who suffered from cancer and are survivors. So it is a top-notch organization.
Generally speaking, 1 out of every 2 men, 1 out of every 3 women.
Yeah.
Those numbers are staggering, and when you think about that, it's almost impossible to walk into a room with a number of people in it where nobody, somebody in there has been touched by it or knows somebody who has. So
my mother-in-law's a survivor, and my sister's fighting right now.
Yeah. By the way, today is a notable day for me. I got my first haircut in 2 years.
That's awesome, Bob.
It's coming
Good
back.
Stuff.
There it
We
comes.
like the hats, though.
It is coming back.
It's a cool factor with
Here
the
it
hats.
comes.
I do like the hats, I gotta say.
Thank you. Would anybody else like to speak to this? Mr. Phil?
It was Mr. Bastion's comment that drove me up here. And it's just kind of a question. Is the park intended to be a money maker? Is that what's behind? Oh, I'm sorry. My name is Phil Madsen. I'm the owner of Anytime Fitness here in Port Orange.
I don't know that it's intended to be a money maker, but I mean, we spent a lot of money to build it and to bring people to that area, and it's you have to cover your cost. I mean, you have to.
The great balancing act.
You can't give it away.
There's a fee scheduled to help offset the cost of Parks and Recreation for everything from baseball. We charge our kids for baseball teams. We charge for Lakeside, for the amphitheater, and anybody that comes to any one of the public facilities. They rent those areas.
Yeah, and so when something is waived, then it shifts cost to a whole bunch of others.
The other question is, we're going to be participating. It's the City Fitness Challenge that's coming up.
Yes.
And our gym is this first year we're doing this, but I'm really excited about the park because that's where we're going to be leading our group workout, for the people who come.
Good deal.
And I believe that's sponsored by Parks and Rec. Is that right?
Susan could speak, but the fitness, that challenge is.
I'm presuming that they don't pay fees for the use of their own park, or do they?
Don't believe they do.
All right. So
Participants pay a fee to be in the program, which helps offset those costs.
okay, say that again, please.
The participants.
You gotta, thank you.
Susan, you have to come up.
Susan
Nice
Ball, Parks
try.
and Recreation Director. The participants of the Get Fit program pay a fee to participate in that program, which covers those costs.
Because it's, tollways come to mind. It seems like a parallel. And the role of government and, public interest. I kind of get it. I'm not prepared to argue a particular point. This just kind of came to mind. But I guess the first question that comes to mind is if the park is to make a profit, that doesn't seem...
Park's not there to make a profit.
No.
The
Parks
cost and the
don't
fees.
Parks don't make profits.
The cost and the fee structure is primarily designed for us to continue the maintenance and take care of the facility. Those are what the costs are. I mean, they're laid out right there. So in a park of that size, as well as all of our parks, there's a cost to maintain them and care for them and keep them up and do all those things. Like Councilor Bashir points out, there's the main cost outlay has already been paid, but we want to maintain it. We want to take care of it, and so that's the idea behind the fee structure. Again, there's a workshop coming up for us to really try to hash these out, because we all wrestle with these issues. We've wrestled with them since the day I've been on here. And you know what? We have really, really great organizations who want to have great community events. We've got a lot of them. It's a blessing in our city, and we'll figure it out. We'll figure out the best way to move forward. Because here's the reality. One way or another, the taxpayer's paying for it, right? I mean, so, you know, they're going to pay for it either in fees, or we're going to have to figure out how to work it into the budget. I mean, some way or another, the residents of Port Orange will pay for these things. The good news is that our residents, I believe, they love these events. I mean, they love the events that we hold at our parks. They love that there's organizations like this that choose Port Orange and choose our community to hold these things. And not very many weeks go by throughout the year that you don't have some organization using one of the venues somewhere in our city to do great things in the community. So, very valid points. You got
absolutely.
Well, I get it, and again, I'm not prepared to make any particular case, but I was curious about that comment, and I wondered about if there was some profit motive behind it.
I mean, we have a huge property that we have to maintain. I might also add that when we were doing our budget this summer, before the final millage rate was set, we had some wiggle room in there. At a higher millage rate, it would have been slightly higher millage rate and slightly higher taxes.
Considerably higher.
There was wiggle room in there for this sort of thing. We had a budget for it, and it was taken away when the reduced millage rate was approved.
Okay, I'll leave. But your point, Mayor, about community building at its finest. That's why we participate in Relay. I mean, we're a commercial business. We're Jim. But in terms of making contacts in the community, participating, you know, the government's involved, volunteers are involved, cancer's involved, survivors are involved. But it's just a wonderful way to bring people together around something that really affects us all. And,
speaking of which, before I give Sarah her due and you guys sit down, just, Cheryl, what's the date again?
May 19th.
Did you say May 19th?
May 19th.
May 19th.
Noon to midnight.
May 19th, from when to when?
Noon to midnight. So
noon to midnight.
All of you to come back.
May 19th. So everybody who's at home listening is marking their calendars now.
May 19th, noon to midnight.
I think we've pretty much all been there hanging, pinning or hanging the medals on the survivors. We've done that pretty much every year.
I do urge all of you to come to the workshop, because you're going to find considerable disagreement among council about that. You know, the whole issue, and it's a really heart-rending issue. Do you make people pay to do good with public property? And there's no easy answer to it. And the question comes is, how much are we willing to subsidize directly from taxes, and how much are we going to pay for with fees? So, and sometimes I think we may get a little too fee-oriented, and that's my personal opinion as a councilman. But you know, others feel differently, and I respect their views, because in the end, we got to meet our budget. So, how you do it?
We'll figure it out together. Thank you, Sarah.
Thank you, guys.
Sarah Jones, 44 Woodfield Drive. First, the reason I stood up wasn't to be rude. It was so that my knee would not collapse and I wouldn't limp up here. As far as this problem goes, what was proposed by the Cancer Society was something where they were going to accept the cost. So it was a wash for the city. They wouldn't make, and excuse me the word, but that's what it is, a profit, but they wouldn't lose out either. That's what you're voting on. So now your question that you're facing is, should you treat them differently than other people where you charge a fee which includes some profit, i.e. some money that you can use for some other part in parks and recreation? And I think the criteria should be, does this organization donate back to society? Are they somebody like the Cancer Society who does work for others? Or are they an organization that they may be very good, but they essentially service themselves. They take care of themselves. So it's very clear to me that in this case, the Cancer Society, which probably gives far more than they're asking for, should have a waiver. And when you folks have your workshop, that's really what you should say to yourself. What guys, and it is a, do I want to take some extra money for so I can help pay for Parks and Rec? And what guys do I not want to take that extra money for? Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, sir.
Anybody else? There being none, any other comments, council? There being none, call the question.
Councilman Ford.
Yes.
Councilman Tremont.
No vote?
Oh, abstain.
She's
Sorry.
abstaining.
Councilman
Abstain.
Bastian.
No.
Vice Mayor Stiltner.
Yes.
Mayor Burnett.
Yes, 3-1 with one abstention. You're in the money, so to speak. Thank you.
Have a good event.
Make it happen. Looking forward to it.
We'll see you there.
Yes, you will. Item 19, city
Thank
attorney
you.
comments.
Nothing this evening.
Item 20, city manager comments.
Mayor, a couple things. First of all, the marked trees in City Center in front of the old police station, the Dorothy L. Hupel Annex. Yes, they are marked. No, they are not marked for removal yet. Councilman Ford had brought up that it may come to that, but we're going to provide council with many options, some of which are outlandish, but we're going to provide them anyhow. Move the road, move the sidewalk. Some of the things that are more feasible are different types of sidewalk. We've talked about them before, flexible sidewalk and whatnot, and some very scientific root pruning to see if those trees live. Now, we can go with something like a optional sidewalk. It's going to cost a lot of money, but we love our trees, so it might be worth it. We'll give you that cost and see where we sit and whether that's something you all can stomach to save those 5 trees. And then we'll fix the sidewalk and the road, which is kind of becoming almost undrivable if you have a car that's kind of low to the ground.
Is there an option in there? I don't mean to step all over you, but is there an option in there for smaller trees with smaller root structures that wouldn't be as damaging?
I'm going to give you all options.
Oh, okay.
I'm going to try to save the trees. I'm going to show you what we got to replace them if we can, including some crepe myrtles that miraculously will come available from a different location.
Okay.
So we'll give you everything, and we'll talk about it just to let you guys know. I know that canopy and that drive-in is part of the beauties of City Center, and every time we cut it, it's like less of the canopy, and it's kind of heart-wrenching to see that part of the beauty of City Center go away. So we'll be bringing that to you. The other thing I want to bring to your attention, because it's been brought up before and had some explaining to do, is we entered into a piggyback agreement based on the authority you gave me for light bars for our 2017 vehicles. That all they're waiting for are light bars. I did put it in the weekly, but I'd like to state it for the public that piggyback agreement only had it was Tampa. It only had one. It was competitively bid, but only one competitor showed up.
Okay.
We have a software program that purchasing has that allows them to kind of do an informal polling to see whether we're getting a good price. That price is in fact pretty competitive, so we went with the piggyback. I reported it on the city manager's update. I'm reporting it in public now, and we are going out for our own bid next year for the 2018 cars to make sure that we're still competitive. We might go with the piggyback when all is said and done, but it'll be a competitive bid. So just to let you know that's how we're rolling with the light bars. I want to get those. As a matter of fact, I think some of Bill, are some of those cars out there now? Yes, one or two?
Thursday, the first one
there you go. So you should start seeing the Explorers, I think they are, right? Explorers? Yeah, the Explorers out
Okay, so moving forward, that's when we replace, that's where we're headed.
That's where we're headed for the near
With
term
the
until we can get,
Explorers.
yep.
Okay,
Oh,
good.
yes, the
Good.
vehicles.
Yeah.
As long as you don't see those vehicles with their light bars activated directly behind your vehicle,
You're good
to go.
You'll see them out on the road, we'll be okay.
You're good. That's all I have.
I don't have the speedy car.
Council committee reports.
Pardon me, one more. Sorry. Thank you, Robin. February is my evaluation date, so I'll be rolling out the evaluations in paper format for you.
Okay.
Via Jamie. I'll have Jamie take care of that. And it's in the same format last year. Please, if you have something better, something different, something you want to do, I'll be setting up appointments for a one-on-one, and you guys can fillet me in public sometime in February. That's at the workshop if you like, since it's a no vote.
Sounds like fun.
Yeah, it does.
Same way you did last year with your accomplishments and your...
Yeah, I don't have too many of those, but I'll give you all
You-
give you the con list.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Very
I'm gonna-
good.
Yeah, I'll send you a brag sheet.
Let me just please do that. One thing I'm going to throw out there is last year at this time we had all 3 union contracts open. There is no way in the world I would have ever considered a wage or pay adjustment for our city attorney or our city manager when we haven't taken care of our employees yet. But we have.
Yeah.
All 3 of them been taken care of, so let's just keep that in mind. I do like the idea of maintaining the feedback portion separate from any discussion we may or may not have about wage adjustment. I think the 2 are separate conversations, and one can take away from the other, and I think the feedback is the gold. So I just wanted to throw that out there.
Got it.
Now, City Council committee reports. Art House.
Yes. Art House is truly amazing. The artwork by the youth is, I urge you, in fact, you'll have an opportunity shortly, go down there and see one of these art shows. We have We Create 2018, which is January 18th through February 9th. Yes, February 9th, which is going to be exhibitions of kindergarten art. And it isn't what you would expect. Some of these children at that young age are showing really interesting talent. And by the way, you're all invited on Thursday, January 18th, between 5 and 7 to Art House for the open showing. Please come. They'll have a little beverage. They'll have a little finger foods, and you'll find it quite interesting. See what these marvelous people can do with our youth, and you'll be impressed with the talents that are out there.
Excellent. Chamber of Commerce, this Thursday is the business after hours at Countryside Lakes. Later this month, on January 31st, that morning is the city manager's breakfast, where 3 things get to happen. Anybody who wants to go and ponies up their $20 can listen to Joe Yarborough speak for about 30 minutes and then leave 5 minutes for Jake to speak. But then after that, the public service awards are given out, and that is just a fantastic, fantastic celebration. Roundtable of elected officials, I've already reported on that to you. So, with that, I ask, does anything else come before us this evening? There being none, have a good night. Very good. And we are out.